Right, hello everyone, welcome back. This is my miniath attempt at getting this recording actually started because I'm on a different computer and this has not been set up at all so far. But I want to make this and the next episode a little unorthodox, and so neither this nor the next one's going to be as long as the usual ones are. And I've done a lot of things off screen. The last one you saw was here, and now I'm here. So I want to go through. How far did I get? I don't even know how far I got. Um, yeah, anyway, so this was the last one you saw, and I had a whole lot of issues at the back of my head with this whole setup, okay? One is that we are losing an absolute shitload of money on trains. So the reason for that, let's start this one. The reason for that is because almost everything that's not people trains was losing money. And apart from goods and maybe steel, yeah, goods and steel were doing fine. And so just want to elaborate on what happened off screen and why what I want to do is essentially start a new season continuing with the map from the new save game. And again, there have been a lot of changes off screen, but I think I've now cleaned up a lot. And also, come next episode, I will also start playing on the 2cc revival, which allows a lot more flexibility because I've been chewing about a lot of things, how I did not like the old 2cc, and then I started developing it and so on and so on. So essentially, I don't have a particular plan for this episode in terms of I haven't rehearsed what to talk about. But the biggest thing is that I've pretty much cleaned out a lot, a lot of vehicles. So at the moment, in this safe game, we basically have 5,500 vehicles, but then passengers and mail pretty much make up almost all of it. In fact, we don't do mail in this one. I keep mixing it with the other one. So, there's a few clay and a few engineering supplies, which, if you generally look at the vehicles in the big scheme of things, they do make money. And, I think there are some issues with how 2cc traditional set handles a late game because the wagon upkeep costs are prohibitive compared to their speed or the lack of, which I don't think necessarily is something that I have to accept, especially considering that I'm basically developing my own version of the new GRF. So um, if we just have a look at stats, I had 900 trains and 5,500 vehicles, road vehicles. So if I then jump into try this one, this game, see how this goes. So we have essentially not this one, more than 100 fewer trains and about 400 road vehicles. And so I've mostly, and this particular save game is still on the 2cc original GRF. So just to have a look at what's going on, this is still the 2cc NML and nothing else has changed at all. By this point, I've pretty much done away with large parts of where we have been losing money. So it's a bit difficult because so in this one we have 578 million. They should be comparable, right? Yes, load. So if I go back to the old one, similar load vehicles, funnily enough, significantly more income than the trains, even though like okay, most of it is the people part. So we had about 200 odd million for vehicles that were not the people part. So I was around the 390 line, and I'm not necessarily saying that the new one is that much better, because if we look at this, yeah, this hasn't changed significantly. This hasn't really changed significantly either. And this has pretty much stuck to where we were. So it may or may not have worked too well, but it has really been bugging me that um, all my, I mean, Clay is going to with this set, it's going to be losing money because we have very slow trains, and coal is a bit less bad. I think if you look at coal has been cleaned up the last in this set, so uh, we've gone from 33 million minus, and this is August, to 6 odd million minus. So there are improvements being made, and the other one that's going to be slightly improved is iron ore, because these two were the biggest headaches in terms of cleaning them up. So some of the things I have gotten rid of, or just logicked out differently. You may remember, and I think in this particular essay we still have these, where we have these jump to order something, jump to order something, and although there's no explicit timetabling going on, but it's very inefficient to do it this way, as it turns out, because the trains are slow. The huge problem is that if you look at many of, I don't know if I can do it from here. This dynamic scroll is a little annoying, and this is a totally ad hoc place. But if you look at it, we start here. Well, technically, we start here really, but we go off here, and I need to turn off labels. Again, this is a different computer, and I've not. There you go. Towns. Yeah, fine. Okay, I don't care too much about towns. I've not ported my config file, which sucks, but anyway. So, you know, we go off here, we then maybe come here, or maybe come here, or maybe go there. But in reality, well, the whole line setup is very loopy. And do I need to very scroll on this? Why do I keep going the wrong way all the time? Anyway, and this is just one of them. There was one particular call train, which I don't think I'll be able to find anymore. Maybe. Uh, Not necessarily this one, but this is a decent example. Again, like this comes out all the way here, and then possibly goes here, but maybe not, and then you know it's not efficient, because in a lot of cases these sort of lengths don't really yield themselves to anything useful. I'm trying to find the one that was really on my bug list. It was this. Was it? Was it? For some reason I believe it was. Yes, it actually was. Like there are 14 trains stopping here. which actually, if you look at it, this is totally stupid because it's a 300-ton mine and it doesn't really do much. I mean, it could be gung-hoed up, and at some future point, I really should do that. Um, but that's going to be part of the future, whereby I'm going to have a look at a better distribution of engineering supplies and bother with these good ones and not bother with the shitty ones. So essentially, what has mostly happened was that these got cleaned up. Now, hilariously enough, I did this a few days ago, and thus I don't fully remember at what point the change has taken place. Uh, so this is still the 3.2, and this is 2 years down. So now we have trains making slightly more money. So we've bumped by about 10 million. I know it's not huge. Uh, so chemicals, same. Again, I mean, with this set, it's never going to be okay for clay because some of the clay trains go literally across the map. Because if you remember, there's a lot of crap here. So I'm just going to, ugh. So without an awful lot of help, but yeah, some of the clay trains come from here. There's one that comes from here, go up here. There's one that comes, I think, from here, kind of go there, and then there's one from here that goes up all the way here. And even if I turned on, I think it's a clay. We don't have a 10 at the moment. Let's see which one's the worst. Probably not the one I'm looking for. Maybe I moved it down. Again, this particular episode is really not rehearsed, and it's a case of such is life. So anyway, clay will never work with this set because they're too slow, and the cargo aging just means that by the time they get here, they are far up here. There's very little money being paid, and the actual wagon upkeep cost, which it does not say here, um, is prohibitively high. So I think it's about 30K per year. So let's pick just clay for why not. Yeah, 100 odd thousand per year. I mean, that's, I know there's inflation and all, but this is stupid. I don't think that's viable. So obviously these then do 120K per hour, which is yet again pretty useless because we have, yeah, on the one hand, I appreciate there's physics where you don't really get high-speed rail on ferrite. On the other hand, I don't think there's a way to make money on this to the point that it's a problem. So road vehicles now make a little more money, and we've bumped to 6,000. So essentially, we went from 5,000 odd to 6,000 odd. So we now have 300 coal vehicles, which we had none of. And obviously, there has been an increase in clay and a slight increase in engineering supplies and a not so slight increase in iron ore, which make a bit of money. So this is the part where I just figured this will never work in terms of actually like trying to make money, and this is a pretty good opportunity to switch to a newer version of the whole set. So I want to demo without saving the game how to do this. So on the one hand, I'm going to give you a sneak peek. This is the new set. Yes, this is going to complain about that. So as an FYI, uh, this is very much in development, and the actual new GRF can change quite literally any hour. So it's whatever. I mean, real life today is the 16th of July, if I remember correct. June, sorry, 16th of June. I will modify the description from the next episode onwards, or perhaps even from this episode onwards, to include a link to GitHub, because this is not yet on Bananas. And even on GitHub, as of right now, there is a slightly older version than what I'm playing with. So if you really look at the naming, it pretty much says RC3-32, which is to say I'm 32 commits ahead of whatever is on GitHub. And there have been some additions, and there has been a mass renaming of items. But I will talk about those in the next episode, which really is why I want to start this whole new season, because I think it's worthy of new video set, even though we're continuing to play the current game and the current map. So nothing's getting really lost. But just to elaborate on what's happening. So money-wise, we've bumped up to 600 odd million. We now only have 700 odd trains. And it's to say chemicals, very few left. Almost all chemicals are now being sold some other way, uh, generally through taking um, vehicles, road vehicles. In terms of clay, we are now making money. And the reason for that is because now we have trains that go a little faster, 160, and the upkeep costs have been multiplied down by 0.75 for wagons only and coaches. And I'm going to introduce all of these new things in the next episode. This is not the episode to do that. This is really just a sneak peek of things to come. Especially that one's going to be a pretty interesting idea that came through from the Dutch train set yesterday. But what I'm going to do is try to demo, and if this is something you're interested in, follow through. If this is not something you're interested in, obviously, hoping to see you in the next episode. So what I will do is going to demo how to hot load 2cc into 2cc revival, because it's actually not that simple, sadly. Because if I just casually going to let go, so and there's not going to be any save gaming happening. But if yeah, clearly my settings are not synced. So if I do this, it's not going to work. And this is not going to work because essentially everything is now unknown. I'm not fully sure why precisely they're unknown, because I think the vehicle IDs haven't changed for the vehicles that are in the game, but such is life. And the problem is that, as you can see, it says stopping, and yes, it's just going to crash. So no power. And so there's absolutely no way you can ever move these, ever. So my neighbor's smoking weed again. I can smell that. So this is totally not the way to go. And if you do this, you'll be stuck. So let's go back to this one. And the other thing I want to do is uh, clean up message history. So I need to do this, otherwise things will be popping in a lot. Use new vehicles, yes. Accidents, yes. Off, off. Acceptances, off. No, I don't care about any of these. It would be so much easier if I just turned on my laptop and sing the CFG file, but that would be sensible. And actually, I want to keep these. I don't think we have subsidies, and in all fairness, I don't care anyhow. Okay, leave it like that. So what you want to do is essentially send everyone to depot. And for that, it makes life significantly easier if you don't group your things, because you want to make sure that really everything is in the depot. And then you fast forward until that is just the case. And I'm not going to demo all the way through because it becomes repetitive beyond a certain point. I just want you to get the logic. So we still have a few outliers. I don't care that much about the steel stuff here. So you're in. And then, like, if you have even just a single one out, you have to redo everything, which can be massively wasteful in terms of timing. And I'm pretty sure there was another train here. Yes, go away. There's still one moving. I saw it. Choo choo. Come on. I mean, that also just gives a slight idea about I put down too few depots. Great. So no, there's still one up further down as well. I mean, this one's less of an issue. In fact, I think we can get these go because we don't want to replace them anyhow. Although, in terms of visible checks, it would be much easier if I could. Yeah, that's the problem. It's much easier if you just send everything to depot because now I have blues and blacks and just makes it all the more complicated. So because I'm not going to be saving this game, we can generally assume that, although there's one literally moving. Okay, can we just do it this way? Yes, yeah, shut up. One of the benefits of using this particular computer is that the mouse is a little more sensible. I fast scroll on this one. I definitely need more depots. Okay, while we're doing that, sorry, good. Anyhow, assume we're fine. So you want to make sure you can actually buy things when stuff is paused. So I'm generally not a fan of that, but for this time being, just make sure you are actually capable of doing everything when you're paused. Then oh yeah, the other thing is you really want to make sure that you have groupings. Now, if you're not using Jonathan's pack, then template replacement's not going to work for you. It makes things a little more complicated, but you definitely want to make sure that you have things grouped in a way that you can clone. So, you have to have a way to figure out where trains were going from and going to, and what they used to be like. Because what you'll have in a moment, when we do this, is this. And the problem is that now I mean, these are fine because these guys were part of a different set, so these have not been affected. But, you know, there's no easy way to know, especially if things are not grouped, um, what they were, which sucks. So what you want to do is generally find one of these. Oh yeah. So then you could say template replacement, right? And the problem is that templates only actually change, as in they only get affected upon trains when the trains enter the depot. So logically, if a train is in the depot, then changing the template is not going to make any difference. If I stick to, this is a good example, chemicals 3, right? So that is template 36, this one. So the problem you have, so template, you dump this whole shebang, and then you say chemicals to Gen 7's maglev, pick something like, I'm doing this ad hoc, right? Tanker. And I said chemicals 3, so it's a bit too long. So let's say power running cost and a none. And as I said, I'm not going to just do everything because it's pointless. Let's say 160. I think, yeah. I don't know why Talis is. I could be. I mean, look, it doesn't matter. Let's say this one, right? It's all a demo. So this is a little too long. So let's say this. So the problem you have is that this will never actually be really affected because these trains don't move. So what you want to do is just basically memorize that, okay, this has 5 counts. And you may or may not want to keep your 5 counts because if you look at this one, funnily enough, it actually remembers total cargo capacity. So this is 475,000. So if you then sell everything else. And again, the fun part is that you want to only sell the ones that belong to this particular group. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass, but you say 671, I have 658 open. So 671, sell. 670, not here. 59, not here. And you go and find the other one and you say, sell. This belongs there. Sell. And 660, sell. Things you don't want to do, don't press the button. So even now, don't press that button. Because what happens is, if you sell it like this, it actually remembers the last vehicle that had been. So if I now pick the uh, pick the cheapest one for reasons that will become obvious in a moment. So just pick this, right? It actually remembers. So now I say we had 5 of these, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you essentially say go, and then just send for servicing. And because these are now moving, or will be in a moment anyhow, you will then get the template replacement, supposedly anyway. I think, yes, there's a bug, which is exactly that. So when we changed the GLF, it it reset the non-electrified railways. I don't know why this is happening. It's a bug. So that's actually on, but in reality, it's off. So all you do is on, off, then send them back again. And so for all the others, it has worked, and this one will also manifest itself as soon as it ever gets into a depot. And this only needs to be done once. It won't be needed again. And lo and behold, now you have stuff wheezing around at 160k, and your total cap is a little higher. Maybe I think it was 475. But basically, that's generally how you replace things. Obviously, as I said, I'm not going to go through everything because you get the idea from this, and you can figure it out. Now, I will introduce this new GIF in the next episode a little better. Uh, when you switch to the new one, you'll lose your perimeter settings. So it defaults to everything, which is not what I had. So on the 3.2, there was no Africa. I don't remember. Anyway, something to keep in mind. So that's essentially what happened while you were not watching. And so if I jump back into this one, yes, load, which is where we're going to continue from next time. So my perimeters are, yeah, no Africa, no South America, no Asia, no Southern Europe, no Oceania. Yeah, we're making a bit of money, and I think that's useful. Also, in terms of learnings, at least, like particularly if you're continuing to play with the traditional 2cc set, I think if something's only as far as a map's worth of distance, then probably consider running road vehicles. And I want to change the color, map color, dark green. Can't see otherwise. So because on the normal 2cc set, everything's very slow and the upkeep costs are pretty high. You're better off running things, if you can, on road vehicles, unless you bump this down to something lower. But the problem is that, I think even if you bump it down to one tooth off, um, yeah, I think it's a bit of a cheat. So yeah, it's up to you, obviously, how you play your game. But in the new one, it's a bit friendlier, and yeah. So I think that's why I'm going to cut this episode and the whole season, really. And then we're going to continue from here the new season, which in your world is going to come right after this one, i.e., in 2 days' time, is going to have a short intro into the new set. And that is also not going to be a full-length episode, although we're already 35 minutes. I hazard the next one's also going to be around about 35 minutes. And then we'll actually continue playing just with the new stuff. And yeah, any thoughts, comments, questions, let me know. And I'm hoping to see you on the other side. So, no saving game, but thanks and bye bye.